starting to see things like Morgellons disease and other things. You asked me to bring up bioaccumulations, and so this is the point where that comes in. Every night's inversion, this stuff comes down. Everybody's body's different, no matter how close we are to someone else, and our exposure to these various chemicals and particulate matters will build up in us in different places and in different levels. And from some of the remote viewing, and I'm not speaking of from a psychic aspect, although there is that, but that's another story. Remote viewing is actually a science in itself. It involves things like earth-penetrating tomography and interferometry and various tomographies. And this can all be accomplished by satellite, active auroral, or by handheld units. A lot of times it's in conjunction with all three. They'll have to spray and build an ion plasma in order to charge it and to bounce signals off of it and get reflections off of it and interpret those reflections. But they can do 3D viewing from very far away, and the resolution is excellent. One of the companies that handles all that is a company out of Huntsville, Alabama called Time Domain Corporation. Bam, right in the eye. They have over 200 classified patents that have to deal with through wall, through groove, remote viewing, and they're still classified, and they were classified 8 years ago. A lot of times, like Bernard Eastman's patent for HARP was only classified for 3 or 4 years. The time domain stuff has remained classified all through the Bush administration and prior to that. And there's no end in sight, because they certainly don't want people knowing that, you know, they can spot you 400 feet under the ground and hear everything you say. So anyway, that's just a small aspect of what some of this technology is about. And they can read a body, a human body, by the amount of electronically reactive particulate that has been ingested, as if it was a thumbprint, as if it was a fingerprint, because each human body is different, and dependent on the type of stuff that you've ingested by breathing it and having it on your skin and eating it and drinking it, you've developed what's called a radio signature. And you do have, every single human being has a radio signature today. So it doesn't matter if you care about being chipped or not. They don't care if you care about that or not. The chipping is really just a show for people, and it's what they call acclimation. They're trying to get people used to the idea that this is happening and this is going to happen. And you think you have a choice and you may not want to be chipped, you know, but you are. Everyone is. And they are not taking no for an answer. So that's what bioaccumulation is. It's the physical conditioning of someone to create a radio signature so that they can be spotted from satellite anywhere at any time on the planet, and they'll know who it is just by how you glow. So,
you know,
that's like...
Is there any way to get rid of that? I've tried taking activated charcoal. You know, someone suggested to me to take activated charcoal, and I don't know if it helps or not, but I tried it.
There again, you know, you have to look at the length of their program, the length of their conditioning. They've been hard at it for 10 years. I took my first chemtrail picture less than a month after 911 because I told my partner at the time, I said, hey, Nettie, look, it's less than a month. Actually, it was less than a year since W had become the appointed president. And I said, less than a year, and they're spraying stuff on us already. And she said, oh, those are, she came out with the initial excuse that everyone first says, those are just jet trails, those are just condensation trails. And I said, yeah, well, look, it stopped right there. And then, look, it started again over here, and that's because they were switching the condensation trail tank. And so I started taking pictures, and I sent them to some people on the Internet and who had already been involved in it at that time. And, yeah, they were very interested in those pictures. Now I have traveled the United States for the first, that month I had left Huntsville, Alabama, and traveled for 3 years in a bus just to go across the United States and take pictures of these things all across the United States. And now I have about 40,000 pictures, and I continue to take them. It's evidence. And I think that anyone that's listening that would like to do something positive without having to get indicators, especially when you finally get to someone in power and say, hey, why are they doing this to us? And the person says, well, they're not doing anything to you. That's not happening. And so that's their first level of defense is denial.
Well, Jacob, what I'm trying to say there, is there any way to help get this out of your body?
Oh,
I know, like
yes,
someone told me take activated charcoal, and it seems to have helped. And people are really curious about this because a lot of organized stalking victims, such as yourself and myself, I feel are built up with magnetics, and we're trying to find a way to get it out of our body. How do we get it out of our system?
Well, that's where I was going, and I got down a rabbit trail, and thanks for bringing me back. No, thank you. I got sidetracked. The whole point is that their programming has been going on for a long time. I shouldn't say programming, that's a misnomer. Their conditioning has been going on for a long time, so you would actually have to find yourself you would have to prepare for yourself a very expensive environment so that you no longer ingested this stuff, and then you would have to undergo extremely expensive chelation treatments. Now, a lot of this is known, and there are people who are taking drugs and chelation and things like that to overcome the effects. The fact that the government is denying all this is just one more indicator that a large part of the program is depopulation. I'm sure of it. And there's a man named Goldsworthy in UK. He's a doctor, and he's very well versed in electromagnetic effects. And believe me, as bad as it is here, it's way worse in Europe. And it's been going on for a long, long time, a lot longer in Europe, because they don't pay attention to things like liberty over there like we do. They don't put as much value on it. And I should say at this point, once they get a certain amount of electronics installed in your environment, then it becomes much harder for the mass to act for its own well-being. And that's the basis of my book, Devilvision, is that it's hydraulic. Once they get a foot in the door, then it's harder and harder for people to react, because it is mind control. Now, Goldsworthy says that what he's found out is that a lot of the cellular membranes and like the blood-to-brain barrier and things like that become much more permeable due to even weak electromagnetics. And there comes a point where this deterioration of cellular membrane is irreversible. Now, if you know about it right away, you can start taking calcium and magnesium, and that's something the listeners need to know too, especially calcium. And you can get these in vitamins and things like that, but it's very indicative also that the government is in the process right now of trying to make all of that illegal. So anything you can do to help yourself that works is going to be made illegal, or going to be denied you, or is going to be taxed so stringently, so exorbitantly, that it's going to become a matter of burden to you. So I don't know about activated charcoal.
It seems to have helped me, but it was suggested to me by another organized stalking victim, and he said it helped him a lot, and it does seem to help because it does clear out mercury and things like that, I know. So I gave it a try. I just wondered your thoughts on it.
Well, vitamins are important too. So that's I don't think anything that's not poisonous that you can take and is not going to hurt you. Then it can't hurt to try it and see what happens. So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, don't worry. Just you've got so much information, and it's so valuable, so thank you for sharing it. Let's go back, because you mentioned HAARP, and of course you mentioned the military, but who else is behind these chemtrails? What other organizations that, I know there's a lot of opinions regarding New World Order, there's a lot of opinions regarding the DOD, there's a lot of people that talk about Satanists on the rise, and the Illuminati. What else? Who else besides HAARP and the military? Who else do you think is involved?
Okay, well, to clarify, HAARP is definitely a Navy program, so they're tied together, and